Okay, so it's been a while since I've done one of these video blog type things. But basically today I wanted to talk about commands versus events, at least the way that I see commands versus events. And this all kind of stems from the idea that recently Taylor started talking about renaming commands over to jobs, and I'm totally fine with that because there was a little bit of confusion. I think that either way, you call them commands or you call them jobs, that's almost the same thing for me to do. Or when we're talking about those two types of architecture, I think that that's just about the same. Now, the reason I say this is because when you, at least the way that I feel, is that when you fire off a command, you're going to have a single thing listening for that command. You're going to have a single handler, and the same thing with a job. You're going to have a single worker handling a job or a particular job. One of the things that I find a little bit awkward now that a lot of people have come into the command architecture is that they're trying to use this for everything. They're trying to do it for any time that something should be a response to another event in the system. And I really take issue to that. I don't completely take issue to that, but I think that it's starting to have, I think a lot of people are starting to have pain points because of this. And the reason I say that is because I see a lot of people trying to do multiple things within a single command handler. And while you could do this, basically what would happen is your command handler would then become a dispatcher of its own. And that command handler would then say, hey, user has registered command comes in, or job comes in, and now I need to go ahead and fire off the welcome email. I need to fire off a alert to all the administrators. I need to fire off a internal notification system. I need to set that user to tour is true, and I need to do all these like 10 different tasks, set up their trial with Stripe, etc., etc., etc. And these need to all fire off at the same time. They get dispatched in response to this one command. Well, you have a new dispatcher, and a command bus is sort of a dispatcher of its own. So I think that you are building complexity there that could have been easily handled by something else, and that's where an event bus comes into play. And an event bus, by definition, lets multiple things, multiple handlers listen for a single event. So let's say, once again, that user has ordered. Now you remove the dispatcher, and instead you have the user has ordered event, and you have a listener that says, send them a welcome email. You have a listener that says, sign them up for their trial. You have a listener that says, send the admin's email. You have a listener that says, send notifications. So you have all these event listeners instead of having a single command that you have to rebuild another dispatcher. And especially where you have an event bus already built in, it's kind of reinventing the wheel. Now, the other thing that I would say is both with events, the other thing I would say is that with events, you also get a little bit of a clarification, because since events can be handled multiply and can be handled asynchronously, kind of by definition, well, then you really detach yourself from the idea of, hey, I have one thing handling this, so therefore it can have a return statement. Well, if now you're starting to question whether you have one listener or 20, you're never going to want a return type from that. Instead, you're just going to fire this event and let it go off into the wild. You just want a return of, hey, did that event go into the queue system? Did that event get logged? Whatever. And then you just trust that all of the actions are going to be taken. So this is just a really basic overview of what I think about events and commands. So that's that's kind of my little 5-minute spiel, trying to keep it short as I get off my work, as I get off of my lunch break. So I hope this helps some people out there, and stay tuned for the next one.